Well, it was a process. I was at the beginning. Actually, my interests in art came from music. I was really keen on listening to music when I was teenager. That was my sort of an introduction to art. I loved record sleeves and all these graphics that were related to music. For instance, my first knowledge about Bauhaus was not the artistic movement, but music group Bauhaus, and only through them I learned about Bauhaus as a movement, about Dada, about Cubism, and so on. So that's sort of a pop culture was an entry point for me. But I was quite familiar with art, mostly through the albums that I maybe not familiar, but there were the albums in at home about art, but my parents are not anyhow related to art. My mom is quite skillful drawer, so that's I was always impressed how with her skills. And if I can say so, I have this, I'm skillful because of her, I believe. But that was so my secondary school wasn't art school, was a technical school. And at that time, it was very difficult to get to Academy of Fine Arts. There were many candidates to be an artist and so on. So first, I studied architecture for 2 years. There was, but there was only a substitute. It wasn't the proper subject that I was interested in. So after 2 years of mostly painting than studying architecture, I quit, and I got admitted to Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow. That's how I became an artist. At the beginning, I made a lot of stuff with music and so on. I realized that I have these skills that I can draw, and so I made a lot of stuff for myself and for colleagues of mine. Also with metal music, there were, because the imagery of this music, of this genre, is very rich. So I painted, I made drawings with that. But actually painting was something else. I remember the first still life I painted, that was the bottle of milk and a piece of bread. That was a moment when I realized that I want to be a painter, and I wanted to try a proper still life. So that was mixture of sort of a self-education, and definitely with a lot of influences of music entourage. I did believe in the notion of artists as an very individual and independent being. So I think that was maybe a natural way, that because of the professors, there were, this older men mostly, and what they proposed to paint, what they proposed to study, didn't tell anything about my life. So that was natural that I mean they wanted to paint still lives, and they had ideas about art as a sort of sublime activity, something that has to cope with big subjects like truth, belief, spirituality and so on, that I don't reject them, but that wasn't, that it has nothing to do what was my life about and what was life of friends of mine. So we had a group of people who didn't like this attitude, so we did rebel. My political point of view is in a way is also rooted in this rebel against academy. Poland is a Catholic country, which is really difficult for me, for an atheist, to cope with, and so some of the professors encouraged us to paint this totally obsolete paintings that are related to religion and so on. So of course I rebelled it, and also Catholicism in Poland is linked to right wing, to conservatism, and I definitely reject it. I have to. I'm open to say that I'm pretty much on the left side of in terms of the politics. And of course, I painted at that time. I painted what was around me, what I was interested in, on everyday life objects and so on. But I also tried to express my political point of view. And actually, it's interesting because it hasn't changed much. I can see that, even though sometimes it's not that evident on the surface of canvas. So I always try to incorporate my political point of view, my disagreement for certain things that going on around. But still, I paint friends of mine, my family. I think my wife is still the main model, main character that appears in paintings of mine. So that these are certain subjects that are long lasting. It has changed. It has changed after when I finished my studying. That was very interesting moment because I was so fed up with this indoctrination by this conservative professors, with these with past art, like, I don't know, with Renaissance and so on. And I really didn't like it. On purpose I didn't go to museums, because for me it was always associated with this conservative attitude. But over the years, it has changed, and now I enjoy a lot. When you discover history of art by yourself. When you ask me about Seurat, that's very interesting, because I think that this also the impressionism is related to this easy painting and easy and sometimes catchy painting. But this is the moment, for me, that was I realized that must be quite important moment in history of art, when art became happened to be liberated from the subject, that the form, the way world is conveyed, is put into just in colors, is more important than what's on canvas. That's what's the subject of the painting. And I think that was the crucial moment. That was the crucial moment in history of art. So this is why I like Seurat, because it was pretty much about way of scientific approach to the theory of seeing. Now it's much more complex. I admit more and more. I think I have to I accept whole spectrum, the broad spectrum of history of art, and I chew it over for my own need. I have a folder on my desktop with the images that can be source for paintings, but it's quite often I keep them for a while, and only when they are still intriguing for me enough, after a while I decide to paint. What I choose to paint is not that easy to answer, because it's quite interesting that sometimes when I paint a motif, when I paint something that is based on the snapshot I took, I realize that behind it, it's very often many images are politically driven, but subconsciously, not on this, I would say, the first evident layer. That underneath is my disagreement, my anger toward politics, what's going on in the world, and so on. But I think these are also what is always puzzling me is something that is vague, that is obscure, when there is a sort of a twist in reality, that's what's puzzling me. I cannot be very consistent with what I say with it, because sometimes there are very simple, I would say, moments of beauty, of sentimental moments, like, I don't know, like the sunset, that can be cheesy, but on the other hand, it's so challenging to cope with this cheesy image, and to find a way to convey it to paint it in a way that is not pretentious. But this is pretty much about emotions. Yeah, I think it's pretty much about emotions, but not emotions that I can describe, that are not emotions that can be verbal. The process of painting is very interesting, because sometimes I want to paint quite realistic painting that is easy to understand, easy to recognize what's in the painting. But sometimes I don't succeed. I cannot. I can't, because painting is stronger. Because the canvas and the nature of the canvas and the paint is stronger than my skills, and I have to submit. I'm forced to let the painting to be painted by itself. I think I just submit, and okay, I cannot do this in this realistic way I wanted to. I have to turn it into something else, and that's how it happened quite often. For me, painting, still painting an abstract work for me that I'm satisfied with is very difficult. I mean, it's for me, it's a big challenge to paint the purely abstract painting. I mean, I need an anchor in reality. I need a point of reference in reality. Only then to turn something into sort of an abstract work. But nevertheless, it is not abstract, because it's I mean, or at least it's not purely abstract, because it has roots in reality. First of all, I think about myself. I know it's a little bit, but this is also the nature of making art, that this is quite selfish activity. And I really think about myself as a viewer first, at the first point. And of course, I like to open to leave quite a space for viewers to interpret the work by themselves. Sometimes I cannot I cannot control what I and how I paint. So and I have to admit, sometimes I'm also happy that painting is turned into sort of a abstract resembling work. I'm a keen cyclist. I do cycle a lot. And there is one of my favorite paths, because I spent quite a lot of time in LA, also in Los Angeles. Behind Griffith Park, that is not that is quite steep. I love it. I like bike up there, and I used to pass these pipes, this some water construction that are quite common in LA. And I used to pass these pipes, this construction that was always puzzled me because it was in the front of this wall of green in front of it's in the front of the trees and bushes, and so I decided to paint it, to take the photograph of it. So once I stopped when I was cycling up. I took the snapshot, and then I tried to paint it. I wasn't happy with the outcome. I liked the background of the painting, but I didn't like much the pipes because they were they were colorful. There was yellow and red, but there was something I didn't like that it was a little bit dull. So I changed it into much more solid black shapes with a dripping paint. I think it's more aggressive. It fits this green background, and it happens quite often that I assume, okay, this is the image for the painting. I'm gonna paint it. Along the process, it comes out that it's not sufficient, that something is missing, that just conveying the image as it is not enough. I'm not successful with it. So I have to change it. So that's how I change it into something maybe gloomy, with this black shape, with this dripping. So it rather reminds the structure of a like a oil pipes than water pipes. So that, and I think it's more brutal. It's how it's when the green that resemble nature is confronted with oil, with something that is against nature. Actually, filmmaking I think also comes from music, because when I was teenager, I loved, I still like, but that was the crucial moment when I watched a lot of video clips, and the music I listen, I also watched the video clips, and I at that moment I was thinking about, oh, I would love to be a filmmaker, but not a big filmmaker. Film wasn't that important as music and video clips. So I think I started with making sort of with trying to make to film and to put the footage, everyday footage. I mean, just like regular, very basic, mundane footage of everyday life, to put into video clips. Then I started to write a sort of very simple script. There was a plot in it, and that's how it happened. But these are two different activities. I mean, making films and painting, these are two different things. I don't put them much together. These are about feelings, though, about emotions, I think. Now this is quite interesting moment, because I was quite I didn't want to make films anymore. There was a moment a year ago that I was fed up with filming. I was thinking about not doing it anymore. And then I read the book by Swiss author Robert Walser, who was he wrote a book in the beginning of 20th century, and I was so inspired by the book. I loved the book, and instantly I knew I have to make a film based on this book. So during a couple of months, I wrote the script. I managed to cast, to find the cast, and to get the film set prepared. So now we are in the process of post-production. I'm very happy with the outcome, with results. And that's the film where it's quite a lot of music, but with a clear plot. The plot is, I can say, graspable, but I think it was, it's making film is also an excuse to put music and image together. That's why I like the film. I think I succeeded. I've been so absorbed with the post-production process of the film recently, and I made a lot of things that are not necessarily connected to painting as such. I made a series also of drawings with ink, like bigger drawings, bigger ink drawings, and I'm looking forward to get back to oil paint. I have the feeling that I'm definitely this is my basic activity, and I feel very comfortable with it. I also, this is also a big privilege to be in the studio, being on my own, being able to listen to music also or listen to audiobooks. This is a huge advantage of being a painter. I mean, yeah, painting is a habit, and I'm looking forward to be back in the studio.